if you want. You just.
Hi, Nick.
So we close things forward.
Hey Joy, how's it going?
Good. So you can hear us.
Uh,
Excellent. I think we're already transmitting to YouTube, so I'm just gonna put us on quiet until we're ready.
Sounds good.
Thanks. Welcome, everyone. We're just gonna wait for more people to join, but I'm gonna put us on mute just because we're all already transmitting via YouTube. Thanks again.
Funny something.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. We are gonna start as soon as more people join us. So, but I'm gonna put us on mute just because we're already broadcasting live on YouTube. All right, thanks.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi there, thanks for joining. We're just kind of just waiting for more people to join, so we'll mute us just because we're gonna actually have a room full of people.
That's great. Absolutely. I may have to come in and out a couple times, but I'll try my best. My day got a little busy on me.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Great. All right, everyone. Thank you all for joining today. As far as this is our second meeting for the Sherwood TSP update. And I'm really happy that all of you guys can join us. I wasn't quite sure if we needed introductions on who's at the table.
Well, given how many are online, it might be good to just go around the virtual room and have everyone turn on the camera and their microphone and say hello. And then we can get started.
Okay, and
If you
you
can.
guys can hear us okay? Okay, wonderful, excellent. So let's start here at the table so that we know who's here. So to my left,
Jason Waters, city engineer for the city of Sherwood, and thanks for having me.
all right, and Joy Chang, I'm the project manager here for the TSP update.
Bill Worth, I'm with Kittleson and Associates, and I'm the project manager.
Art Graves, City of Sherwood, planner.
Melissa Gonzalez, Development Review Planner at ODOT Region 1.
Hey there, Glenn Bolin, Regional Planner, Region 1, ODOT.
All right, let's see, just based on who I'm seeing, let's get to Nick.
Good afternoon, everyone. Nick Meltzer with Kittleson and Associates, supporting the team with Phil.
All right, Jeff. All right, we'll pass Jeff. How about CJ?
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. CJ Doxey with Washington County.
Excellent. And Andre?
Good afternoon, everyone. Andre Lightsey Walker, Transportation Planner at Metro.
Excellent. Brandon?
Hi, all. I'm Brandon Williams from ODOT Region 2 to the south.
All right. Alex? Oh, wait, there's two Alex. Okay, so Alex Page.
Hey there, Alex Page, Long Range Planner with TriMet.
Excellent. And then the other Alex.
Alex McGladry, Deputy Fire Marshal with Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue.
Thanks, Alex, for joining us. I know you're substituting for Jason, so welcome.
Thank you.
Erin?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Erin Engman, Senior Planner here at the City of Tualatin.
That's right next to us. And then Tiffany?
Yeah, Tiffany Gerke, Principal Transportation Planner for the City of Tigard.
Okay, excellent. Lakshmi?
Hi, everyone. Lakshmi Hernandez with Kittleson as well.
Excellent. And then Jeff? All right, well, Jeff is in and out, so we're gonna just pass him and he can introduce himself later. He's with Clackamas County and we're doing introductions. So now we have.
Rich Sadler, Public Works, City of Sherwood.
And Mark, thank you for joining us. You are just part of the public, so no introductions for you.
Thanks, Joy.
All right. Okay, thanks so much again for joining us, and I'm gonna just move us along in regards to the second item on our agenda, community comments. We actually received none, so yay, we'll just move forward to the next item as far as existing conditions review. Bill and
Thanks,
Nick?
Joy. We've got a PowerPoint presentation that we're going to use to try and keep us moving through the material. And it really is a combination of presentation of material that you've already seen because it was in the existing conditions technical memorandum that we sent out to everyone in advance. So that's going to be more the notion of review from a highlight perspective. Also welcoming any particular feedback and perspectives from each of the agencies on that. And then the second half of the presentation is really where we're hoping that we're going to get into a discussion, conversation, because the focus of it is on the performance measures, metrics, targets, and thresholds, all of which are essentially new to the TSP process because of CFAC. And we're all in this together. It's new to everyone. And what we recognize is there's not only a learning curve to get over, but then there's a lot of what ifs that probably will start today, but we won't get through all of them today. But that's the second half of the agenda with respect to the presentation. Nick's going to run the presentation. He's going to go through the existing conditions material first. And then we'll take a brief break, let everyone get a drink or whatever they need, and then we'll dive into the second half. And along the way, please, you're encouraged to interrupt. If you want to raise your hand, we'll keep an eye out for that. But if we don't happen to notice, just say, I've got a question or a comment, and we'll take that as they come. Take it away, Nick.
All right, thanks, Phil. All right, so we've got through community comments. So we sent you a long memo last week, and with the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday, we'll give folks until the first Monday in December to provide any additional comments. I think we've gotten a few additions from folks, but starting off, some caveats to existing conditions. So there's some current construction projects going on in Sherwood. We don't have the latest and greatest data. We have to draw a line at some point to do our existing conditions analysis. Along those lines, some data sets, the most recent information for those is 2022 or 2023. The multimodal data, if folks are working with that data in other parts of the region, that data is still in the process of being developed. So we've got most of it, but we had to do some interpretation. And then Sherwood West data is shown for context when we have it, but we didn't do any analysis because that's a separate planning process. So looking at the system as a whole, there's, from our calculations, 74 centerline miles of roads in Sherwood, 126 miles of sidewalk and shared use path. Note that that's more because it's on both sides of the road, and then 30 miles of bicycle and shared use path.
Part of the reason why we wanted to put this in front of all of us, and more importantly, the Citizen Advisory Committee who follows this meeting, is to begin to get an understanding of a relationship. What you're seeing here numerically, what's the relationship of sidewalk facilities to roadway facilities, bicycle facilities to roadway facilities. I think generally speaking, most of the public kind of thinks of the transportation first in terms of the roads that they're on, however they're using them. And so it becomes kind of a benchmark, if you will, for the way we're trying to understand what's the system we have today. And especially in the future, when we talk about a complete network, you know, what defines complete? And then how do we measure where we are against what complete would be? So eventually these will get turned into graphics that are even more interesting to look at than just the basic numbers. But to Nick's point, and then we'll move on. Yeah, we've got 126 miles of sidewalk, 74 centerline miles of roads. One would say, at a glance, one would say, wow, we got more sidewalks than roads, but there's generally this expectation that you're gonna have a sidewalk on each side of the road, right? So you should have twice as many miles of sidewalk as centerline miles of roadway if you were only looking at the sidewalks along our roads. So that's why we put the notion of an equivalency to the right.
So Tiffany, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, my hand is raised because I just don't, I'm confused if there's duplication because well, sidewalk and shared use path, like shared use path is a very, like, it has a design speed. It's meant to be traveled on by bikes and pedestrians. Sidewalks are not designed to be ridden on by cyclists or by bikes. So it might be a benefit to you all to just separate shared use paths out, to have clearly defined sidewalk, shared use path, and bicycle facilities outside of shared use path, just because shared use path is a very unique item. It's something that's meant for both bicycles and pedestrians, while sidewalks and bike lanes or separated bike lanes or cycle tracks or whatever you'd like to call them are, strictly for bikes and scooters. So that's my comment.
Yeah, I think that's a really good comment, Tiffany. I think when we were doing the analysis, the new transportation planning rules kind of have you look at the entire pedestrian system and the bicycle system. And so that's why we've included them here, is because to your comment, the shared use path network is part of both the pedestrian system and the bicycle system, but we can split that out.
Yeah,
more.
if you split it out, it still clearly shows that, like, the assumed is that the shared use path is as part of both, but it also does come with a different maintenance, a different design criteria, and even a different level of comfort a lot of times. So
Yep. Great. Thank you.
All right, so we've got a summary of some of the topics and a map that follows. Again, this is all information that is in your technical memo. Pedestrian system is generally well developed. 85% of pedestrian facilities are in good condition, and that's the quality of the sidewalk. The coverage is strongest east of 99W and south of Tualatin Sherwood Road. There's a few missing and incomplete sidewalks. So there's some fair and poor sidewalks concentrated in older residential areas. That's to be expected. The schools and activity centers generally have well-marked crossings, and there's gaps in crossings along Oregon 99W and Southwest Roy Rogers Road. Most transit stops, the limited transit in Sherwood is accessible via good sidewalks. So hopefully this display is okay for folks. You can see the three colors represent the quality of the sidewalk or shared use path from good, fair, and poor. And then you can see the transit routes, the 94 and the 97, as well as the transit stops are in light purple. Those are kind of get lost in the town center. Moving on to the bicycle system. As we've already discussed, the network is comprised of shared use paths, bike lanes, shared bike lanes, paved shoulders, and trails. There's okay citywide coverage in connection to schools, parks, and commercial centers. Most facilities operate at a bicycle level of traffic stress 1 to 2, and indicating low stress for riders. And that's because as a percentage, the majority of streets in Sherwood are residential streets with low speeds and low volumes. High stress corridors with higher speeds and limited separation include 99W, Roy Rogers Road, Edie Road, and Tualatin Sherwood Road. Missing links on roads create barriers between neighborhoods and regional destinations. So there's a few roads that have facilities that are short sections, so they pick up and then drop off again. And then there's abrupt transitions between facility types, which reduces comfort and predictability.
All right.
Andre.
Yep.
Hey, can we just go back to that last map really quickly?
Mhm.
I'm colorblind, and so the distinction on this map, the good, fair, and poor, is pretty hard for my eyes to see. And so, just a recommendation for accessibility to just figure out a way to have a little bit more distinction between those colors would be helpful because I have to like really, even squinting it, like it doesn't help. Yeah. So, anyways, really appreciate the information, but wanted to.
No, yeah, thanks for that feedback. Is
Yeah.
can you see the separation between the two lines?
Um,
Like the sidewalks on both sides of the street or no?
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, I
Okay.
can see the separation. It's just like
The colors.
it's the colors that are.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Mhm.
Okay.
Quite a lot.
Yeah, there's I noticed that too in the arterials collectors local streets map was tricky. I'll send Joy, I'll send you a link that I use that you can share with the group. That's a site you can upload images to, and it'll let you test different colorblind
Oh, okay.
levels.
Yeah, that
That's
would be
great.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andre.
So this is our bicycle level of traffic stress map. Tiffany, did you want to add to the color comment?
No, actually, with regards to the level of traffic stress,
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that concerns me is I don't, and you might have a pretty good network connectivity, but when it comes to low level of traffic stress, when it comes to your residential streets, right? It's only as good as the network will take you, right? If those networks, those neighborhood streets only really take you around the neighborhood, but you have to cross a major arterial roadway that has a pretty high level of stress, then really your network is a high level of stress in order to reach their destination, right? So I just something to take into account, to be thinking about connectivity of the network and what residents and visitors actually have to do in order to get to their destinations, just as a point. Mhm.
Yeah, so this I think illustrates that pretty well, right? So to get on either side of 99W, you've got some red and orange lines. To get to certain parts of town, you have to cross some red and orange lines. And so that you may be able to go short distances where the network is low stress, but those higher stress sections really limit kind of cross city connectivity. When it comes to crossings, this is, again, if anyone hasn't, this is summarized data. So if anyone hasn't used the multimodal network data that ODOT's collecting, it actually shows you where the actual crossing is. We found that pretty hard to see. And so we've used dots to represent the different types of crossings across the city. Another note here that folks may notice is that, in Oregon, every intersection is a crosswalk. And so this is really just showing a section of those crossings. All right, moving on to the public transportation. 2 TriMet lines, 1 Yamhill County line, and a senior city shuttle. The service is concentrated on Oregon 99W, limited access within Sherwood. The headways are 20 to 40 minutes on the weekday for the 94, and the 97's peak hours during the week only. And then Yamhill County is during the week with varying headways. The stop menus vary. Again, downtown and that town center is better served than the rest of the city. Moving into the roadway network and traffic operations, the roadway network consists of roads maintained by ODOT, Washington County, and the city. Arterials to local streets. Oregon 99W is the primary regional corridor and the primary arterial. Other key arterials include Tualatin Sherwood Road, Elwart Road, Roy Rogers Road, Oregon Street, and Sunset Boulevard. Eastern and western areas have limited street connectivity. Those cul-de-sacs do create kind of more comfortable conditions for walking and biking, but then push more vehicle traffic onto arterials. And through our analysis, we found that most intersections meet PM peak mobility standards with the exception of Oregon 99W and Elware Sunset, Oregon 99W and Chapman Brookman, and Oregon Street and Tonquin is near the threshold. Looking at the intersections that we studied for analysis, you can see them on this map. And then the functional class, you can see there's the one primary arterial, pretty good connectivity with other arterials and collectors, some neighborhood collectors, and then the local street system. All right, moving into safety, we have data from 2019 to 2023. 894 total crashes, 26 of those involved serious injuries and 3 were fatalities. Rear end crashes were the most common, and then turning and angle crashes after that. We had 10 intersections flagged for safety concerns. 5 Oregon 99W intersections showed overrepresented crash patterns. And when it comes to pedestrian bicycle crashes, there was 31 total, 3 pedestrian fatalities, 18 pedestrian injuries, and 5 bicycle injuries. Those were concentrated on Langer Farms Parkway, Trailblazer Place, and Oregon 99W. And the leading factor was a driver failure to yield. I think Joy or Jason, we talked about that 2 of those 3 fatalities were a driver having a cardiac event, correct?
A Trailblazer. Yeah.
Yep. Tiffany?
Yeah, maybe I'm reading this incorrectly, but you had total crashes 894 with resulting in 3 fatalities from 2019 to 2023. But then it says you had 3 pedestrian fatalities. So doesn't that mean that all 3 fatalities were pedestrians, but you just said that?
Yes. Yeah, the 894 total. The pedestrian and bicycle crashes are 31 of that 894. When it came to fatalities, they were all pedestrian fatalities.
Okay, but did you mean that the reason the fatalities occurred were because of a driver having a cardiac event?
Two out of those 3 fatalities, yes.
Okay.
I just want to emphasize that it says driver failure to yield and what that kind of meant for 2 of those 3.
Council's gonna want that kind of probably
Clarified, yeah.
clarified.
Okay.
It was basically 1 right turn failure to yield at a signal, and then 2 from the cardiac event, I think.
Would say they probably like them indicated that way.
Right, we'll clarify that. Okay, thank you.
Here's a map of the serious and fatal injuries, as well as showing the top 15% of the SPIS sites. When it comes to the freight, rail, and utility system, designated freight routes include Oregon 99W and Tualatin Sherwood Road and Roy Rogers Road. The PNWR rail crosses Sherwood with 8 at-grade crossings. Brookman Road and Middleton Road are ungated. High-pressure natural gas petroleum pipelines run along major corridors. And BPA and PG both have high voltage transmission lines that cross the northeast area. Here are the crossings over dimensional truck routes, and Oregon Highway Plan freight route and reduction review route. And then looking at the utilities network. Moving on to a summary of all the different modes across the system. There's gaps in sidewalks, some unsafe crossings along 99W and Southwest Oregon Street. The bike system has high stress corridors and missing links, especially on routes connecting neighborhoods to schools and jobs. Limited transit service. Local congestion on Oregon 99W and some side streets exceed standards. A few intersections show elevated crash rates. Vulnerable crashes show need for better crossings and driver awareness. And ungated rail crossings in conflicts with freight traffic require operational and safety improvements. When it comes to the town center summary, there's good connectivity within the town center, but barriers to accessing the town center exist. So that's the railroad, 99W, as well as some other arterials. Bike infrastructure, there's good network connectivity, but many of those streets are higher stress. Limited frequency of transit, but the stops are concentrated in the town center. And from a roadway perspective, there's a mix of collectors, local streets, and arterials. Again, access is somewhat limited via the limited crossings on 99W, the railroad, and 12th and Sherwood Road. And within the town center, the fatal and serious injuries are concentrated along arterials. And that gets us to the performance measures and standards. Any other questions or comments on the existing conditions?
I was trying to look on my own. This is Glenn at ODOT. From a transit perspective, is the only way to Hillsborough to go to Tigard transfer to like west and then Grierson?
Yeah.
And then
So I was kind of noting too, is like perhaps getting some feedback from our electeds on east-west transit. That way.
I was actually kind of thinking north-south. But,
Oh, no.
yeah.
Right,
It's very confusing because when you have a highway that goes, an odd numbered highway that goes at an angle, what's north, what's south? No, I mean, yeah, I was just thinking about the draw to employment centers up north and if there's transit options, I don't think there are. Kind of looks like it's all 99, right?
So I know that there's a study right now
Okay.
in the River Terrace area, and maybe Tiffany can address that as far as.
Oh, sure, hands up.
Yeah, that's happening, but it doesn't go all the way further down to Sherwood. Tiffany, your hand's up?
Yeah, you might be talking about the microtransit pilot project.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's gonna hit River Terrace, but and I think some Bull Mountain, but not any further. But yeah, hopefully I like that model, and I think it could be used for more suburban areas, because it's kind of like an on-demand service, kind of like Uber or Lyft share, or I think that's what they're called, that type of model. But my question was going to be more on, was there in your existing conditions, did you do, because as I'm thinking about my own TSP scope, did you do any kind of like, as far as a consideration of land use and economic kind of patterns, like, for instance, do you have more week jobs, or is it more of a weekend economic draw, right, for your commercial areas? So that might be something just to consider as you think about even performance measures, to think about what you're trying to, who you're trying to move, and what you're trying to really accommodate on an everyday and encourage So for instance, if you're trying to get more people to your farmer's market on the weekends, or if you're trying to help commuters get from their homes to jobs outside of Sherwood or inside of Sherwood, that just might be something to consider.
Tiffany, this is Phil. I agree completely. That ability to connect land use and transportation is something that we're eager to do. Right now, what we're initially is the community profile that gives us that land use data that starts to allow us to look at things like coverage, how many households have access to different forms of transportation. So it's a piece that's still to come.
Okay. Yeah, it's just my brain is thinking about what I want to do, and I just kind of wanted to think if your brains were thinking the same.
Yeah. Other thoughts or questions before we move on? We're moving at a pretty good pace here.
So I don't know if, I know Alex with TriMet, I don't know if you want to speak to the opportunity of a north-south kind of connection outside of the micro mobility project.
Yeah. So in terms of future service, we do have a long-range concept plan. It does include a lot of north-south connections between Sherwood and Hillsborough-ish. We would love to share that with you guys. I think that is what we are having included in future conditions for all TSPs. I do want to note that pilot project is, I think it's going to have about a year and a half worth of funding. And at the same time, there is also a metro-wide community connector transit study that's happening. And that should be going out for public outreach, I think in March. So I think the timing of that's going to line up well, and you can pull any results from that in as well. I just have a few corrections on some of the existing conditions, but I can send that directly to you guys.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you, Alex.
Do you have any?
One other really important piece I think should be included in the existing conditions is that Sherwood West and the high school are outside of the TriMet district. So that is a big hurdle to overcome.
Oh.
Not huge, but it's not insignificant.
Okay, so is that as far as, let's just say Sherwood just got inside the UGB. So do we just have to change the service district boundary of TriMet?
Yes, so the metro boundary and the TriMet district boundary are separate entities and separate districts. But yes, we have a process in place. I think that Glenn, you can speak to this a little bit too from the state's point of view, but we have pretty broad discretion for adjusting our district boundaries, but we have a process that's adopted by resolution that pretty much would take, I mean, no one that I've met in the organization has done it recently. I think the last time we expanded was 2008. So it takes probably 9-ish months to go through that process, but it's mostly just an operational fiscal analysis and then a lot of outreach and negotiation with the jurisdictions that are affected.
Okay, so there's a way.
Yes. Very clearly there is a way, and we have been looking at it for other areas, including River Terrace 2.0, that kind of area, and Happy Valley. So all of them are kind of in discussions around district expansion.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Looked like Andre had some information to share.
Yeah.
I just dropped the link to the community connector transit study, so anybody online can check it out.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, Nick, if you'll bring back up the presentation, we'll move into performance measures. So, as we all know, TSP relies on performance measures to make determinations on what things need to be fixed and how we fix them and how we know that they're fixed. And that's a combination of the performance measures that tell us this is what we're measuring, the performance target that tells us this is what we wish or how we wish it was performing. And then a threshold that is a numeric standard. We're also familiar with. See, that's the perfect example. So there's a threshold that's established like 0.85 or 0.99 or 1.0. And then we do our planning around all of those things. With CFEC now, the TSP is also asked to be thoughtful about development and development review and how we inform proposed development with respect to potential deficiencies and mitigations that it needs to address as part of its application process. And what we're needing to do through this TSP and all subsequent TSPs is the notion of ensuring that these two things fit together, number one, and number two, that we have a measure that is not focused on automobile performance. Most TSPs in Oregon for a long, long time have had that automobile measure and metric, but not many have ventured into trying to measure any other mode of transportation, any way of otherwise gauging the adequacy of the system. And so that's what we're undertaking now. That's kind of the backdrop to the rest of today's meeting and the conversation that we're going to have. What you see up here is a list of terms and their definitions that we're going to end up bantering back and forth about over time. So the good news is now that it's in a PowerPoint presentation, you've got a quick way to refer back to them when you want to remember what's the difference between a target and a threshold or a performance measure and a performance standard. It's all here on one slide. Nick, let's go on. Yeah. What's changed here is now what you're seeing is these terms with respect to the TSP. And again, what we'll be working with the city of Sherwood to determine is what are at least two performance measures that will be used for the TSP process and how do those relate or translate into their development review requirements as well, which starts to be part of what you do on a day-to-day basis here for the city of Sherwood. These metro measures have been developed through quite a lot of thinking and discussion at a regional level, and it represents a range of potential measures that Sherwood could consider to complement what they already have and or replace what they're currently using. There's always kind of an interest in looking at what's the next door neighbor doing. In this case, what Kittleson is familiar with, because we're working on both of these, are what Clackamas County is contemplating doing as a part of its county transportation system plan, and what Milwaukee is just finishing doing with its TSP. Both of these are either overtly or covertly, I guess I would have to say, attempting to be CFEC compliant. Milwaukee began before CFEC had all been fully processed, so that's why I say it wasn't directly and deliberately made to be CFEC compliant, but they did the best they could to get as close as possible. And Clackamas County has just started, and so they're able to get all the way there, as it were. And so what you see is that both of those jurisdictions continue to use VOC as an auto oriented metric. And then under the multimodal category, the county is thinking quite seriously about using the concept of system completeness for each mode, pedestrian and bicycle. And Milwaukee happens to have done something very, very similar. Now, I'm interested in others here in the meeting who've either witnessed what other jurisdictions have done or what your own jurisdiction is considering doing. So Glenn, you're in a lot of these meetings.
Just, I mean, again, for those who here seeing Glenn Bowl and ODOT, not many folks have gotten too far. I would say Milwaukee's farthest along. And one of the things that, you know, they've done, and you hinted at it with your needs development here on BLTS, for example, of 3 being a threshold, as it was in your memo, existing conditions.
Yep.
They picked BLTS and PLTS as thresholds, so they can use them both in ranking for project selection and in the plan amendment zone change world. The legal writing always makes me swim. I'm trying to. My understanding is that the requirement for analyzing capacity really happens through the 0060 application, which is going to be zone changes and plan amendments and TSP adoption. So I got a little confused when you said development review. As allowed use development review doesn't necessarily have to go through that process. So anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
All right. So,
Jeff?
Yeah, thanks. Just wanted to add kind of one thing we're also considering in Clackamas County. We just had a number of meetings yesterday, today to entertain this a little more, is adding even a third in addition to VC system completeness. The third might be level of service of safety, LOSS for an acronym, LOSS. And I'm not the best one to fully describe that right now, but we're in the middle of kind of.
For just a moment, you're breaking up a little bit.
How about now? Is that better?
Yeah, we've lost your audio.
Okay, I'll try again. Yeah, one thing we're considering adding is
Still no good.
Okay.
It might be the room because I can hear you, Jeff, online.
Yeah,
Oh,
we can
yeah?
hear him online.
Yeah, I can hear him.
Oh,
Okay.
that is odd.
I can type it in. How about that? I'll type.
Department.
So you hear everybody else.
Jeff was saying that Clackamas County is having conversations yesterday and today about adding a third performance standard to the mix that relates to the safety level of service, level of.
All right, you typing it in sounds great.
Nick, just as a sound check, would you say something?
I thought I was.
Oh,
Yeah, you are.
okay. We are definitely having an audio issue now because we can't hear anybody. All right. Let me just walk away and get IT.
Okay.
You'll leave and rejoin.
Well, yeah, while we're waiting, we can't ask too much from the from those on screen because we won't be able to understand what you say.
Thanks, guys, considering level of service safety. Okay.
Okay. All right.
I'm curious to see how that is applied at a project selection level. I guess if you're using like published known countermeasures, right? You identify the crash and say, oh, we get these 4 countermeasures, therefore get us to, okay.
Yeah.
I see that.
Yeah.
So that's good for your SPID sites, things like that.
Yeah.
No, you have a problem.
And then if both of your measures fail, can the satisfaction of one satisfy both?
I mean, I think the way I read the updated TPRs, what they're trying to do is give decision makers more opportunity to weigh trade-offs. And so having multiple measures means don't get just stuck in one box, don't follow one rule, but understand there's a holistic thing here. And so, yeah, and we do this all the time, right? We're looking at a 3-lane or a 5-lane cross section. We've got a lot of unprotected crossings, maybe that safety benefit, that maybe the congestion benefit outweighs the safety risk in that section. So we do that balance,
Right.
I think, but we don't have it codified necessarily.
Right.
So.
Hey Nick, can you hear us fine? Okay, all right.
Did the audio magically come back?
Yeah, we'll hope for a solution here quickly.
Might be a short meeting. We'll get through it. It still satisfies the.
I wonder if checking the input levels on the mic on the speakers or something. Because it kind of felt like with being the volume threshold. Seems like things that always get me are the background noise filters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone behind you talks and also the person talking.
Thanks.
No. Oh, they're here.
Sorry, how about?
You said broken up audio.
All right,
We're hearing a little.
yeah, Nick, can you just say some words?
Yeah, we're talking about performance standards.
Wah, 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 wah. That's what we're hearing.
That's Charlie Brown.
Wah, wah,
Hello?
wah, wah.
Such perfect audio.
See, if you guys did come, you guys could have had some candy. Big gigantic bowl of candy. No, we're trying to get rid of them. They may be a month old, like.
So your Costco package?
Yes, that's my Costco package. Something to consider next time, you guys. But we are all the way in the southeast region. No, southwest.
West.
I don't even know where I am.
Right, so I think part Sherwood.
Andre or Nick, can one of you guys say something? Oh,
Something. Hello.
no, okay. Try it again. Andre.
Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Aha! There we are.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. It
Bad? Yeah, a little bit.
was a little
I
loud.
mean, that was it. Reverb.
Okay,
Nick,
Nick.
give us a sound check.
Can you hear us talking about performance standards?
Excellent. Yep,
Yes.
okay.
Boom.
So let's start where we came from.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, you have you have.
You
Can
might
you-
have had to leave.
Yeah,
Oh.
leave. But he gave us what we needed.
Okay, all right,
Full of service of safety.
all right. Did you guys
Clackamas
get that?
County.
Yep.
Okay.
So before we go any further, anyone online that had questions or thoughts they wanted to chime in now? Kind of got interrupted there, so.
Yeah, I think, or knew of other performance standards cities were pursuing or counties.
I'm just curious, besides the meeting here, and I guess I can lower my hand, besides the meeting here, is there anything else that's dictating your choice of performance standards? Like, are there like city or council goals, or are you doing like a greater outreach effort to like gauge what the outcome of this like ultimately should be? That's just a question of what type of outreach you would like to have, because I would say this should align with the goals.
Yeah, well, great question. It leads us really to the next slide or two, but what you're seeing on this slide is really kind of a description of the process that we're expecting to go through. So we wanted to start the conversation with the Technical Advisory Committee, knowing that it was just the beginning of a conversation, trying to get initial input and ideas and listen to what you may be doing or thinking of doing. we're gonna share this at much more of a layperson level later today when we're talking with the Citizen Advisory Committee. We're actually using a Likert scale type of question and answer section with them to try and get a feeling for fundamentally what's important to them. Because if it's important to them, then maybe it's something that we should consider measuring, right? After these two meetings today, what we expect we will be doing soon is literally going to city council in a work session in January and showing them example packages, and you're going to see them in a slide or two, of possible ways in which these performance measures could be combined together and used for the TSP purpose. So it won't be until we've had that work session with city council where we'll feel like we've gotten direction from the city as to where we think we'd like to go. And still there'll be intentional opportunity to interact with you all to understand the implications of the choices that we may be making. And comparing this to where we are in the overall project schedule, this all has to really happen before we can do much with respect to the future conditions, because it's what we're using to judge the future conditions, right? So we get all of this hard brain work done first, and then we start to pay attention to the future. Hopefully that helps. Andre?
Yes, thank you. This may not be the plan to do it, but I think it would be really cool to have sort of move towards sort of universal performance standards in the region at least, just so that we can be communicating with each other better and supporting each other. And so I know that my team through the RTP has a sort of pretty robust list of performance targets and measures. And so through some of our regional coordinating conversations, I think we hope to land on sort of a metro recommended performance standard list, and then give jurisdictions the space to also add any additional that feel relevant to their needs.
Andre, where are you in that process? And when do you think you might be at a point where you've got a preliminary preferred list?
Yeah, great question. We're still pretty early in that process. I would say probably early 2026 we would have something put together, but we're still having conversations. We also we're still pretty early in our coordinating group of all of our jurisdictions that are doing TSPs. And so I think that's something we'd want to bring to the table to that group. And the next time we meet is in January as well. So, but I assume, if we prioritize it, we could probably land on something pretty quickly.
Right.
Yeah, that would definitely help. It's since we're one of the first, it's unfortunate.
No, it's
exciting. It's exciting. Yeah.
So Phil, to your comment about, trying to nail down what you want to measure before so you can then go and measure it, how you need to do. Having done a lot of scenario planning in different parts of my career, one of the things I've done is run those scenarios, track track several variables. Some of them, the mapping, the results might reveal they weren't very good. Some of them, the results might feel, oh, we see that this, we run into this a lot. We should go farther,
Yeah.
So I think, so I would say, if it's doable within your modeling, don't limit yourself to 3, right? Have half a dozen, and then you might learn things you didn't expect.
Right. Yeah. And it's a wonderful point. That notion of, first of all, what can the model tell us?
Right. That's the hard part.
Yeah. And why ignore what it can tell us? Because it's going to tell us whether we want to know or not.
Right.
Yeah. And then how can we complement whatever may come from the model? And yeah, but I appreciate the point of let's not narrow too quickly and overlook something that could be really valuable. Yeah.
And those results then let you choose between, then you're gonna find which ones are the most important, most meaningful to your city council, your community members.
Yeah.
Erin?
Hi, thanks. Just sharing that as your neighbor, when we adopted our recent TSP, we decided to adopt level of service standards for our pedestrian and bicycle networks. And while I wasn't directly involved in the decision-making process, I understand that it's similar to the model you show on the slide here, where we worked with our CAC and our city council to land on that decision.
Okay.
Okay, excellent.
Adjust the volume down a little bit, just so we don't. I might be able to with the, if you do it on the side there. Go to, there you go. See if that makes any difference.
We're just doing a little sound adjustment here in the room. Other thoughts or input?
I'm curious, Aaron, have you implemented those yet? The bike and ped level of service?
So yeah, I'm happy to share more details if you want to talk about them offline. And Mike McCarthy can probably join in our conversation too, because he probably knows a little bit more about the decision-making process.
Okay, great.
CJ, not to put you on the spot, but putting you on the spot, where is Washington County in its thinking about this?
Right now, in terms of what performance standards the county would be adopting or implementing is TBD. Those are internal discussions right now, and I wouldn't say we landed on any firm direction for what makes sense for the county at this time.
Okay. Thank you. Well, Nick, we'll keep moving forward. We're making good time here, so there's plenty of opportunity for more discussion. Go ahead and move to the next slide. This is just reminding all of us what we're currently using, depending on the location, what area of Sherwood are we, the roadway classification, and then what are those performance standards? And as you see, these are all auto specific. Underlying everything that's here is that notion of volume to capacity. The city uses level of service in addition, but just for unsignalized intersections. And this is a reminder of what are the arterials and collectors, what are the facilities that those would apply to. So that's, in short, that's the background. That's where we're starting from, is the notion that, okay, it's volume to capacity. What we're showing here now is the beginning of what we will likely be presenting to City Council in January during that work session. The idea of showing them options, or they're called packages here, of how you put together auto and non-auto performance standards, and ultimately what you would be measuring. Package 3 is effectively what's already happening. So here in Sherwood, a V/C ratio of 1.1 for over 2 hours is a standard that's applied. There isn't a non-auto standard, so what we're suggesting to fill that blank is the idea of a ped bike system completeness. So that's kind of the benchmark, or again, it's what's happening now. And then the other two packages are stretching to something different, something more, you might think. So we thought, well, why not just keep the notion of volume to capacity ratio, but instead of it being a 2-hour period, maybe it extends even longer to a 4-hour period of time. And maybe to enhance the notion of a ped bike system completeness standard, we look more closely at what portion of our, in this case, arterials and collectors, are we achieving a certain quality of completeness, i.e. the notion of a PLTS, BLTS of 2 or better. And then package 1 takes a completely different approach. It doesn't use volume to capacity. Instead, it looks at something like travel time reliability or average queue length, some other way to dimensionalize the way in which the system is working to move automobiles along the network. And then you see us continue the notion of, with the non-auto, looking at PLTS, BLTS. Oh, and we're about to lose Brandon, darn.
Another TSP meeting.
So now you're seeing a framework, a way of varying both the auto and the non-auto performance standards. And if we ask you in the context of the agency that you're representing today, do any of these cause you concern? And if so, how, where, and why? Because at a minimum, it gives us then information that we can take to the council in that work session.
Since I can't handle the silence. Hard to wait. You know, we're updating the Oregon Highway Plan, but as you know, we have to slow down. We had a great consultant picked, but with budgets, we had to do it in-house mostly. So we're a little behind, but I only have, just talking with the project manager there, that, you know, we're expecting to do something new for our mobility policies on the Oregon Highway Plan. Right now, people remember tables 6 or 7. I have a feeling that we'll probably, I'm going to guess that we're going to probably retain volume capacity in some capacity and introduce some other things as well. So I would just, I think you're as much advising as you are listening, you know, but first this one, we're going to watch it and we'll be looking at that. Obviously you recognize that 060 is not in play for the centers. So that's a different story. One thing I was going to add that you don't have, Milwaukee has something, and so does Portland, that's totally different, which is a maximum vehicle count for certain types of roads. So Voonroofs, for example. So something Milwaukee worked on. They have a lot of spots where there's just a chance to make a little bit of punch through. But if you built the street to standard, it would not allow the house to be developed, right? So they can do a small street that'll pass fire code, but it's not a lot of travel. And so that way they don't have to require all of the sidewalks and the width and everything they might otherwise, you know, lane markings. Portland has something similar for their greenways. And they use that to determine when they put in mitigations, turn barriers. You know, if we get above a certain threshold, then they've got the policy justification to put in diverters and move people over to the collectors or things like that. If they're trying to use a neighborhood route, getting cut through by vehicles, that gives them the policy basis to preserve that route for bicycles, pedestrians.
So at the root of it, it's a volume based.
Yeah, there's a volume based, like just a number of trips per day, really easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, really easy, because among other things, you can go out and measure it.
Yeah, and in Milwaukee's case, it's like, if it's development, you can look what's there and then see what they're gonna, so you can do it at time of development, not necessarily through a policy review.
Right. Tiffany.
Yeah, I was just curious because I mean, again, I'm kind of still envisioning what the Tigered one could potentially be. But I'm just thinking to help us reach those connectivity goals, the goals of having a complete network that is, whether it's low traffic stress for bikes and peds, or whether it is, you know, we continue to have throughput for vehicles, it might be worthwhile to have performance standards based on the network approach, if that makes sense to you. So having, for instance, your identified bicycle network and having different thresholds that you're willing to allow on that versus your more freight routes or emergency routes. So just, again, just thinking about the outcomes you're looking to achieve, and it's really about connectivity. It's about getting people to their destination. So it's just a thought. So.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm right or wrong, I'm trying to connect that to an earlier comment that you made under existing conditions where you noted that bicycle level of traffic stress might look like a 2 until you get to a big intersection. And then,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And so do those two thoughts kind of,
Yeah, because as somebody who has been a bike commuter in the past, I used to bike to work all the time in South Florida, and now as I live in the Portland area, I take transit and walk everywhere. But for me personally, in my experience, right, you could be on neighborhood streets, and then all of a sudden you're spilled out and there's an arterial that you have to cross and there's no designated crossing. You have no ways to get across that. And now you have to turn around. It was no good. So even though you can look at it and say, oh, that was a low level of traffic stress for all of that, I couldn't actually get where I needed to go.
yeah, yeah. Point. Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
So if I can kind of follow up on that as maybe just a point of clarification or question of inquiry on that. The system, I think it's trying to get an understanding of the differences between performance standards, performance measures, because performance standards is addressed under section 215 of the TPR. Performance measures are addressed under 910. Performance measures talks about what are the types of things that we are trying to get to. Yeah, thank you. What are those things that we're trying to achieve at the end of our planning horizon? And if I understand things correctly, Metro sets those performance targets for the region that we as cities and counties have to work towards. And our performance standards need to show how we are achieving that or making progress towards that. And looking at Andre's link of performance targets that were included in the chat there, system completeness is one of those performance targets that we need to be working towards. So in my mind, like everything that's in that document there is something that we'll need to report on annually as part of our annual reporting for this, and something that in terms of how we're accomplishing that, we'll need to show progress towards that. But in terms of the standards themselves, I think of them more as when we're making changes to plans, when we're updating our comprehensive plans, or when there's development projects that come in, how do we evaluate those for those impacts? And that's how I kind of envision the standards. And I don't know what makes sense. I mean, this is really a city decision for what makes sense in terms of that standard. System completeness could be that, sure, but it's also a performance target that we'll be working towards anyways. There's a performance target in there that says percent of the pedestrian network that is complete, or percent of the bicycle network that is complete. So I think that if that becomes a percent, if that becomes a performance standard, that's fine. I think that's all allowed by the TPR, and it probably makes it easier for reporting purposes. But I think from like a project selection standpoint, there's a little drawback to it. And in terms of leveraging what you want from in the development review process, I guess it's not totally clear which one of those is going to be the most beneficial in terms of achieving those multimodal goals that we're all trying to get. That probably remains to be seen. So all this to say that I don't have any direction on that, but just trying to get that understanding out there, see if anybody has a different understanding than I do in terms of that respect.
Yeah, I think you captured it really well, CJ. I think and what you were just talking about is a lot of the thoughts we've been having as we've trying to brainstorm, um, what gets us towards an outcome versus what's easy to measure or easy to administer kind of from the city staff and the developer perspective. I think the one thing I would add is that the evaluation criteria can be separate from performance standards and performance measures. And performance measures, in addition to the ones that you're required to report on, cities or counties can opt in to add more if they want.
Right, and that's what you're showing on that last slide there, optional performance measures, is that right?
I think that are we. Yes, yep, you're correct, yep.
Good. Thank you. Other thoughts? Okay. What's next, Nick? So we wanted to put a few questions here at the end, hopefully a few thought-provoking ones. Um,
I think we've probably covered most of those, Phil.
yeah. Have there, the first bullet, here in Sherwood, have there been any instances that are of least recent memory, in other words, where you and another jurisdiction were struggling to kind of come to agreement on what's the right thing to do, partly because you look at the system or how it performs differently? And if not, that's great, but that's one of those things that we're trying to figure out ahead of time, where we don't want those inadvertent outcomes because we just didn't think well enough about what's being proposed. In this case, new standards or measures. Yeah.
No, not that I'm aware of. We've always worked out our VORC for the 1.1 threshold at our two intersections, and that's about it. That's all that I'm. And we don't have a lot of projects that conflict with the county. I think the school district might be one, but that's pretty much, I think, exempt for a school, so.
What about Sherwood Road and the pathways due to restriction and adding lanes? No. We didn't have a preference there.
Yeah, I think that with Bob and Stacy, as far as shared use pathways and no bike lanes. On that, I mean, we worked together ahead of time, so I wouldn't say we've had any conflicts. I mean, where there were things that were controversial, at the county board or council level. But that is of interest to us, the bike lanes and the shared use pathways.
Crossings.
Was there an issue with like Brookman Road?
We've not really done anything with Brookman Road. We're still getting the 5 lanes for right of way, but as far as cross section for that.
I just have this memory of that coming up as being, there were 2 different strategies for that. There was the city strategy and county strategy.
No divulge on that.
Okay. Tiffany, you've got your hand up.
Yep. I'm just gonna say this because I mean, all of our success in this region, like on getting people to switch modes and take transit, walk and bike, it all impacts one another. Like if if Sherwood's successful, we see less traffic, most likely through Tigard, we'll see probably less traffic and probably better safety outcomes within the region. So I just want to say a lot of times the intersections, just like I was describing, are those areas that all of a sudden your level of traffic stress just spiked up. And it spiked up because you were attempting to get the throughput, right? Because you added like 2 or multiple turn lanes made it incredibly wide. So I just want to reiterate the fact that if it is on a bicycle network or, you know, a defined pedestrian network, that's your priority network, I would encourage you not to compromise level of traffic stress for pedestrians and cyclists in order to reach a certain performance measure for vehicular traffic in those locations.
Yeah, and I'll also add to Charles on Sherwood Road, when we did do those, when the county did those projects, we did not really make any crosswalk improvements for bikes and peds. We just utilized the existing signals, so I would say there would have been nice if we had, I don't want to say hawk systems or half signals or whatnot in our TSPs, but nothing was done with that project, so just to add.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, good. Well, this really gets us to the end of what we were wanting to make sure we got through with all of you together. In terms of next steps, so you already know that between now and early January, we're going to continue to work on this particular topic, have a work session with council. And that's going to put us in a position where we'll probably draft a set of measures and targets that will then, to Glenn's point, use those among others to take a look at the future conditions and start to develop alternatives to how to address the needs for the community. Here's literally the next steps from an activity point of view. You're asked to provide any and all final comments on the memos that you have by Monday, the 1st of December. That's the Monday after Thanksgiving. Sherwood intends to hold a holiday open house, of which this project would be one among many that would be showcased.
It might not be a holiday, it might be a winter.
A winter, well.
As in
winter
like
is
in
a holiday.
January. But we're gonna have, yeah, we're gonna be showcasing this as far as the update plus other city projects all at the same time.
Of course.
So.
So that we continue to work with Joy in particular on community engagement, how that's to happen, what role the consulting team plays in that. But the city is taking a strong lead role in engaging the community, which is terrific. We've already talked about the council discussion, and then the rest of January and February and into March is when we'll really start to look at the future conditions in earnest. So your next meeting, which would be focused on those future conditions, not yet set to a calendar, but you can tell that it's most likely late February into March. And we'll keep you apprised. We'll probably reach out roughly 6 weeks in advance so that we've got shots at relatively open calendars to figure out when's the right time to schedule it with all of you.
Yeah, and typically it would be about the same time. It'll be also a hybrid option, so those that can make it, always welcome, and others can join online. Yeah.
Any final comments for the good of the order, as they say? Otherwise, we can stand adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Everyone.
Take care.
Thank you all.